Today's recipe is a chicken curry. What we'll be doing is showing you how to use a curry paste as a shortcut to then make a fresh curry of your own using fresh ingredients. The curry paste is something that you can make yourself. It just takes a lot of individual ingredients that can sometimes work out quite expensive to use. That will obviously be a healthier option doing it that way, but the curry pastes that you can buy in the supermarket are a really good second option rather than making it yourself, but a lot better than making the sauce by using a jar of sauce that's obviously packed full of sugars. So today's ingredients, we're using a chicken curry. I've got chopped tomatoes, the paste and some double cream. Because I've got a tikka paste, I'm just going to put the cream in to make it a little bit more rich. You can, instead of the cream and the tomatoes, do coconut milk if you're doing something like a korma. If you want to do something like a Balti paste or a Rogan Josh, you can just do the tomatoes and you don't use the cream. I've also got rice, onion, pepper, spinach to pop in at the end, and I've got some coriander for garnish. So all those ingredients we're going to prepare, bearing in mind that we've got raw chicken, so we're going to be using the red chopping board, but we'll prepare all of our vegetables first on the green chopping board. So first things that I'm going to do is I'm going to prepare my green vegetables, and I'm also going to add the rice on into the pan. So for the vegetables, the onion, obviously there is a tutorial separate, I'll put the link below for you for cutting an onion finely, and we're going to dice that onion, and then I'll show you how to do the pepper, and obviously the spinach can go in whole. Coriander, we're just going to do a little bit of a chiffonade just to show you that, as well as keeping one as a garnish. I'm going to start by putting the rice on. So the rice just goes into a small pan, and then we're going to add some kettle boiled water. You can just put cold water in the pan and bring it to the boil, that's absolutely fine, but this is just for speed. I'm going to put it on the back to boil just so that it's out of the way with it being boiling water, and pop it on to 6, and when that returns to the boil, I'm then going to turn it down to 2 or a low heat so that it gently simmers, and we just give it a quick stir just to make sure that the rice has all been separated and combined with the water rather than sticking to the bottom. So give that a quick stir and we'll leave that now to boil. With regards to the vegetables, I've already diced the onion. Again, I said tutorial for dicing your onion if you want to have a look at that. We've got the pepper and we've got the coriander. So with the coriander, you want to find a really nice leaf just to have as a garnish, one that's quite even, and that will just be reserved, that will be set to one side, and that will be put on the top at the end for presentation. We then get the rest of the coriander, so I've just done a handful. Obviously if you've not got fresh, dried coriander is absolutely fine, but it's just a handful that you want to look at. And then chiffonade, I'm going to roll the leaves as tight as I can and then do claw grip. And the chiffonade is just the shredding of those leaves, so you can do that with lettuce in a salad, but mostly it's done with herbs, and then it just means you can remove the stalk out of the way. So coriander has been done with the chiffonade, and then with the pepper, I'm going to cut the pepper in half lengthways using claw grip. You can use a bridge holder if you had it up on the top. Pull the centre of the pepper out, it removes all of the seeds as well, and then I'm going to cut through in long strips before dicing. So claw grip all the way along, and then bunch a few of them together, claw grip again, and popping those into cubes. And we want to do that with the whole pepper. So we're really adding lots and lots of vitamins into this dish. So it's not just a protein dish with the rice for the carbohydrates, but we're really putting all of the different elements into there. We've even got a little bit of calcium because we're adding the cream in there, and there's calcium naturally in spinach as well. It's a really balanced meal. But if we can pile it through full veg, then you can get a lot more of your 5 a day in a meal. Obviously chopping up very small, if people in your family aren't keen on vegetables, you can kind of hide them in there as well. So I'm going to dice the rest of the pepper, and then we'll move on to the chicken. I'm ready to prepare the chicken. So you have 2 options with chicken. I always teach pupils to start with a knife. We say either a very sharp knife or using a serrated edge, because we don't want that sawing action to go through what is quite stringy raw chicken. Scissors can be another option. They're really easy to snip the pieces. So obviously with a curry, don't really have knives with a curry. You want to just eat it with a fork. So you want to cut each of the pieces of chicken into bite-sized pieces. So you can see the scissors go through really easily. Obviously, if you're using a knife, you just want to be using that sawing action to go all the way through, and then obviously cutting it into pieces. So you can see I'm using a red board. The knife that I'm also using has a red in the handle, so that I always know that that's my raw meat knife rather than using it on vegetables as well. So it just avoids cross-contamination. So we're going to cut the chicken into those bite-sized pieces, and then we're ready to start constructing the curry and cooking it on the hob. To get the chicken curry started, what we're going to do first of all is fry the chicken. We always want to make sure that that chicken is cooked thoroughly. So before we add any other vegetables to a mix or we add the sauce, we do want to make sure that that chicken is cooked on the outside. The rest of it can then simmer through with the sauce. The difference today is we will be adding the paste with the raw chicken, and that will just add some extra flavour to the piece of chicken. So instead of it going white, it will go yellow when it's cooked. So that's what we're going to be looking for. So a little bit of oil, not too much, because there is quite an oil base inside the curry paste. So I'm adding the oil in, add in the raw chicken, and then I want to add in a couple of spoonfuls of the paste. So you're looking at something like this, you're looking at about half the jar, so 2 large tablespoons. I'm going to pop that in here, and then mix this around, and we will allow this to fry now for 5 or 6 minutes until the chicken has turned to that yellow colour, and we know that we are ready to move on to the next stage safely. So it's just starting to sizzle, so we're just going to stir it all around, make sure that all the chicken is coated in the paste, and then allow that to fry until that chicken turns yellow. Now that the chicken has started to colour, it's all gone yellow with that sauce on top of it, I can then move on to starting to caramelise these vegetables. So obviously the 2 hard vegetables that we're using is the onion and also the pepper, and we want to really soften those to release those intrinsic sugars, so that we're adding a natural sweetness to the sauce, which obviously would be missing otherwise because we're not using one of those stirring sauces which has got all the sugars added artificially. So we're going to really allow these to sweat out and stir fry them until they caramelise. Once that is caramelised, we can then start to create the sauce, leaving just the coriander and the spinach to go in at the last minute for them to wilt and to add flavour to the product. The onions have sweated down and we have really started to caramelise the onions and the peppers together. We're now ready to add in the sauce. So we're going to add in the majority of the can of tomatoes. Just reserve a little bit, stir it in, and then if it looks a little dry, you know that you can add a little bit more. By putting it all in at once, it's a lot more difficult to remove it if you've made it too watery. So the majority of the can, we've got about a quarter of the can left. Stir in the tomatoes, and we're going to just allow that a few minutes. The cream will be adding slightly later, as we don't want to curdle the cream, so we want to really start to bring those onions and tomatoes and peppers to a softer stage, reduce down, getting rid of as much of the liquid. I am going to put in the rest of my tomatoes into that. So I'm going to leave that to simmer, so I'm going to turn that down to number 2 and allow that now to simmer for 5 to 10 minutes before I add in the cream and add in the spinach and the coriander to finish the dish. So just make sure you've tucked your pan handle in, that it's down on the lowest heat or low heat for simmering. You don't want it to be spitting and bubbling. That can make a mess of the area and also dry out the product too much. Now that the curry is reduced ever so slightly and some of that liquid has really started to disappear through the reduction process with the steam, I'm now going to finish the curry off. So I'm going to add in the cream, making sure when you add cream you either should be off the heat or on a low heat, just to prevent it from curdling. You don't really want to cook the cream. If you add too much heat to the cream, it can denature and it will change its texture and its appearance. We don't want that to happen, so what we're going to do is add it on a low heat, and all that will do is just distribute through the sauce, making the sauce more creamy, but it won't cook the cream so that it curdles. So once I've stirred through the cream, I'm going to add the spinach over the top, allow that to wilt for a couple of minutes along with the chopped coriander. So once that's wilted down after a couple of minutes, we'll be ready to present. I can show you the final thing. I'm going to drain my rice as well. As you can see, all the spinach is now wilted into the sauce, also has the coriander. So this is now ready to be plated up. My rice has been drained and rinsed with some boiling water, and this is the dish complete.